Hi guys, Jess here, and today we're going to make blackcurrant jelly, and in my opinion it's the king of all the preserves for loads and loads of reasons. Firstly, it's dead simple to make. There's nothing difficult except perhaps picking the blackcurrants. That's very tedious, but it sets because it's got so much pectin in the blackcurrants. It sets ever so easily. It's such a fabulous flavour. It's absolutely delicious, and it's guaranteed. You can make something like, say, apricot jam, and it looks beautiful, and they look like lovely apricots you bought from the supermarket. And it's only until you've finished that you realise that the apricots were pretty tasteless, perhaps from Spain or something like that. And there's the end. You invested all that time and effort into your jam, and it doesn't really taste of anything, even though you haven't overboiled it, you've done everything right, because the apricots in the first instance didn't taste very nice, or very much. But blackcurrants are guaranteed to taste really strong. You can't buy or pick a duff blackcurrant. And the other thing, of course, it's about the only jelly really, if you care about what your product looks like, that you can squeeze the last ounce out of and it still look all right, because it's such a dark black colour. You can really squeeze your jelly bag, and the fact that you'll get a bit of cloudiness through, unless you're really going to use it for show purposes, doesn't really matter very much. Just for friends and family and gifts at Christmas and so on. It looks absolutely fantastic, and it is spectacular flavour. It's the first abiding memory of my childhood as far as jams and things are concerned. My grandmother making blackcurrant jelly for my dad. She hated making blackcurrant jelly because she thought it was a waste, because if you make the jam and you don't waste all the fruit, you get about half a pot more, and she was a bit like that, went through the war and all that stuff. So but it's my abiding memory, and I absolutely love it. It's the simplest thing to make. It sets so easily, and it is just so tasty. It lasts for ages because you need only a little bit on the toast. I've still got some in my fridge from what I made last year. And the reason I'm out here, there's only one reason I'm out here picking these blackcurrants, is to show you this is my blackcurrant bush. Isn't it wonderful? Now, it's a gift. It's a gift from the birds. One day, about 5 years ago, I was looking at my patio, washing it down, and there was a little sprout coming out from between the bricks. And I thought, hang on, that's not an ordinary weed. And I just rubbed the leaf, and you'll always know, if you rub the leaf of a blackcurrant, you get that wonderful blackcurrant tea smell, because you can make lovely blackcurrant tea from just boiling up a few blackcurrant leaves. And I thought, that's a blackcurrant, and so I left it, much to my wife's disgust, because she doesn't like it being on the patio. Oh, there goes the dog. I wonder what she's barking at. My wife doesn't like it on the patio, of course, but I left it there, and 5 years later, it's absolutely fantastic. It's covered in fruit this year. I don't suppose you can see it from where you are, but so I thought I'd bring you out here on a sunny day, a rarity in this country. But I thought I would bring you out and pick a few blackcurrants and talk to you a little bit about blackcurrant jelly. But I better get on and finish picking these. As you can see, I haven't really got very far. Now, that is the only downside of blackcurrant anything, jelly or jam, is that it is really tedious picking them. If somebody invents a way of being able to pick them faster, then it will be the perfect preserve of all time. So let me get on with this, and I'll see you back in the kitchen. Cheers. Hi guys, so here we are back in from the garden, and I've got my blackcurrants, painstakingly picked, I might add. And what we need to do now is we need to rinse them. I'll put them in a colander, and the beauty of making blackcurrant jelly, of course, is that we don't have to. This is a sink here, by the way. I'm just pouring everything on the floor. Can't see it, it's just out of shot, but I'm just giving them a rinse. The beauty of blackcurrant jelly, of course, is that there's a few stalks still sticking to the blackcurrants, it doesn't matter because they're not going to get through the jelly bag. Whereas if you're making blackcurrant jam, you need to sit there and take every single stalk off, and boy is that a tedious process. So that's another reason I don't like making blackcurrant jelly. So they just need a good rinse, and I've only got a pound here because I just want to make a small batch to show you, and to be honest I'm fed up with picking the blackcurrants, but it is a lot easier to do it in a small batch when I'm showing somebody. So there's a pound. Now the reason I'm using, here you are, nicely rinsed, let them drain off well. The reason I'm using empirical measurements here to talk to you is that they're nice and easy when you're making blackcurrant jelly, because it's in a 2-to-1 ratio. If I've got a pound of blackcurrants, then I need half a pint of water. Okay, if you put that into metric, it gets all horrid and messy and silly long numbers. So if you've got imperial measurements of measuring jugs and scales, then for this it's easier to use it. So there's my pound of blackcurrants. They then need to go in as small a saucepan as you think you can get away with. Again, this is the process of where we boil the fruit first with no sugar in it to extract as much of the goodness as we possibly can. And so again, the same rule applies. The smaller the vessel that you can get away with putting it in, the less the evaporation. Remember, we're going to want a nice tight lid on there. We're going to want to simmer it slowly, trying not to get any of the liquid evaporating off. The wider the pan base, the more chance there is of it evaporating off, the more chance there is of it burning to the bottom while it's simmering, and so on. So I think this saucepan will be big enough, he says. Let's see, we put our pound of blackcurrants in there. Yep, that's good enough. If whatever the fruit is comes about a third of the way up your saucepan, that's a pretty good rule of thumb. So on top of that, we're going to want, because there's a pound of blackcurrants there, we're going to want half a pint of water. Now, to be honest, I think you can get away with more. You know, blackcurrants have got so much pectin in, and they are so flavourful, that I think you can get away with more. So we're going to put half a pint though, nonetheless. If you go a little bit over, it won't matter. And that's now going to go on the stove, and that's going to be simmered for about half an hour. Okay, on the lowest possible heat. Put the lid on. Make sure that you watch it so it doesn't boil all over your stove. And I'll come back and tell you what to do next once it's simmered away. See you then. Okay guys, so here we are. The blackcurrants have been allowed to boil now for about 20 minutes. And you'll see they've nearly boiled them over, as you can see from the mess on the side of the saucepan. But they've turned into a nice complete puree. They didn't really need half an hour. Once they've gone down completely to a mush, 15-20 minutes, sometimes half. It depends on how tough the skins are of the blackcurrants, how ripe or how unripe they are. But as soon as they've gone down to a mush like that, they're absolutely fine. Now, in the process, I saw that the liquid was becoming very thick and pulpy. And so I added some more water. In fact, I added twice the recommended amount of water. So instead of for every pound of fruit have half a pint of water, I've actually got for every pound of fruit a pint of water. Now, I know that's going to be all right from personal experience, because I could see how thick, you know, the juice was becoming. It is something that you only get from experience, and you know, if you don't feel comfortable with adding a bit extra water, then don't. Stick to the normal recipe: pound of fruit, half a pint of water, or scaled up, however much fruit you've got. I mean, I try and add as much water as possible because blackcurrants are so strong in flavour. It doesn't really matter if you dilute them a bit. The flavour is just so powerful. And of course, the more you can dilute them, the more jelly you get for the least amount of blackcurrants. And I hate standing there or sitting there picking blackcurrants. It's not my favourite job. And so, of course, I'll try and get as much jelly as I can for my number of blackcurrants. So, So I've added a bit more water. Now what we need to do is we need to separate the pulp from the juice. Now you can put it through muslin. You know, if you want show-winning jelly, you can stick it through muslin, but it takes an awful long time. It really does. You know, the stuff, the pulp of blackcurrants is very fine and very, you know, will clog up your muslin. It'd take forever for it to pour through. Frankly, because it's so dark in colour, it being a bit cloudy, for ordinary purposes of eating yourself and giving away to friends and family and so on, it's perfectly all right just to sieve it. Just put it through an ordinary kitchen sieve. It'll take you, well, we'll do it now. It'll take you a matter of minutes, and you know, no heartache, and it's perfectly all right. So all you want to do is get the saucepan. Whoops, that's just picked up the chopping board as well. Get the saucepan that you are going to make the jam in finally, and get a kitchen sieve, stick it on there, and pour your mixture through the sieve like so, making sure you get every last bit of juice out. Okay, and then just work with the wooden spoon around the edges of the sieve, and you'll see that the juice will go through and the pulp will, there's the dog in the background again, the juice will go through and you'll be left with just the pulp, and you can work it, doesn't take very long, work it through, trying to squeeze out as much of the juice as you possibly can. Okay, there we are, that's it, there we go, and that's pretty much it. And now all you've got left is the pulp behind. If you can see that, that's obviously going to be discarded. Scrape the bottom, all the good stuff's on the bottom of the sieve. Right. Scrape that in to the saucepan. That's going to be discarded. Now we have our juice. What we've got to do now is find out how much juice we've got. So we just pour it into a measuring jug, and ay presto, just by pure magic I appear to have a pint. As near as makes no difference. I've got a pint of juice. Okay, not quite a pint. Now the recipes normally call for 1 pound of sugar for every pint of liquor. I put a little bit more in. I put 1.25 pounds. That just absolutely guarantees a good set. And the pectin in here, there's just huge amounts of pectin in here. The only thing that can go wrong with blackcurrant jelly is that you've either not got enough sugar, or it might not be quite acidic enough. Now, if you're worried about it not being acidic enough, you can always add a end of a teaspoon of citric acid. I use citric acid a lot, you've seen me use it before. If you add a tip of a teaspoon of citric acid to this now, before you add the sugar and boil it all together, then you don't have to worry about the three important features: acid, pectin and sugar. They should all be in sufficient ratio that you should have no problem. This stuff should set an absolute doddle. So all we need to do now is measure out the sugar, which I've got over there. I just need myself, and now I had a pint, didn't I? So let's get the scales. I think we've got it in pounds and ounces. Put our measuring jug on, zero the scales, grab our sugar from off camera here, and we want 1.25 pounds. for that pint for my recipe. Hope it all fits in this measuring jug. There we go, 1 pound 4 ounces. No, spot on. There we are. So that wants to now go in our juice. Here we go. And that then wants to be brought to the boil. And we want to get a rolling boil on that, and then we'll look for set. So rather than us all stand here and watch that come to the boil, I'll come back when it's got up to the rolling boil, and we'll check for set together. Okay, I'll see you then. Okay, so here we are again, guys, and this is now about to come to a rolling boil. This hasn't even started to boil yet, and I can see it's going to set, because the scum that's forming on the surface is already setting on my spoon. That's how much pectin there is in this stuff. It really is virtually impossible to fail to get this stuff to set. But it's just coming up to the rolling boil, and I'll allow you to see that. Just give it a bit of a gentle stir as it does so. It's just starting to boil. You really don't need with this stuff to hold it very long on the rolling boil, but I thought I would just show you it coming up there. And there we are. We've now got a rolling boil, and you can see, I'll need to turn that down, you can see the classic, now I've got to turn that right down. That is jam that is going to set. That sort of volcanic lava type effect that you get, you guarantee that's going to set. I can turn that off now. There's no need, I don't need to test it. I can tell you that that is just perfect. It's going to set absolutely fine. And that's all it needs, really. You don't need to keep boiling it away. You won't do anything better. I have put a tip of citric acid in it off camera, but you can just tell that that is going to set. I don't need to put it on a saucer or anything. Okay, so I just brought that up to the rolling boil. I've held it there for about 30 seconds and off. And that's now, look, that's not got any heat on it, and it's still doing that. That's the reaction occurring. That is the reaction between the sugar, the acid, and the pectin that makes that gel. That's what's doing all that bubbling. Okay, so there we are then, guys. All we need to do now with our jelly is to de-scum it. So we just run the wooden spoon over the top, and the scum is just coming off perfectly because of course it's just setting perfectly. I can get that scum off almost in one piece, and that's just coming off there, no problem at all. Now the way to get rid of all the scum, I take the majority of it off. The way to get rid of all the scum, of course, is to pour this, and if you're going to do what I'm just about to suggest, you need to do it when it's really, really hot. What I'm going to suggest is to get rid of all the scum is to pour it through a sieve. If you leave it until it's even slightly cool and slightly gelling, then the sieve will disrupt the gel process and you won't get a set. But while it's completely liquid, you can grab yourself a sieve, which I should have done, I suppose. You can grab yourself a sieve and you can safely just pour it through the sieve, and that will get rid of all the scum. But you must do this before it even thinks about going off. Okay, so now that's left all the scum behind. And I've got, hopefully, perfect jelly in there. With any luck, good judgment. It's going off, you see, on the bottom of the... It's got so much pectin in it, it's going off on the underside of the sieve and not letting the rest of the liquid go through. But there we are, I'll leave the scum behind, and there is perfect perfect blackcurrant jelly. And what better than to stick it in these beautiful Bon Mamam jars. They are just made for this kind of stuff. And these are from Wares of Knutsford. As you know, I'm good friends with the people at Wares of Knutsford. I make no secret of that. But, you know, they really do supply good stuff. They supply it when they say they're going to supply it, and they're good, honest people. So, you know, they supply all sorts of different styles, but this is just ideal for that stuff, isn't it? Just kind of made for it. So all we have to do, these have been sterilised in my pressure cooker, 15 minutes, up to temperature, 15 minutes. All of their stuff is good for sterilisation. I've tried it all, so, you know, I'm saying that from knowledge rather than anything else. And all we need to do is just open the lid, hold the lid that way up if you can. That stops anything, bacteria, I'm going to do it to show you. If you hold the lid that way up, all the things that are in the air are falling on it. Okay, so if you've sterilised everything, if you're worried about getting things absolutely clean, remember everything after you turn the heat off should be sterilised. Okay, so it's alright for your wooden spoon when you're stirring the stuff not to be sterilised when you're actually making it. As soon as you turn that heat off, anything that comes in contact after that should be sterilised. So that sieve should have been sterilised. A funnel, if you're going to use a funnel, the measuring jug that I've just poured it into, I haven't sterilised it all. I know it's very clean and it's all for my personal consumption. But if you are making this for other people or any other preserves or chutneys or what have you, and you are worried about sterility, especially if you're going to sell it at farmers markets, then it's really important. What you need to remember is everything after you turn the heat off needs to be sterilised. And it's dead easy. Just wrap it in tin foil, stick it in your pressure cooker. The same, not plastic spoons and things. It needs to be stainless steel or glass, whatever you're going to use. Stick it in your pressure cooker, bring it up to temperature, leave it there for 15 minutes. If it's wrapped in tin foil, then of course you can keep it. You know, as long as it remains wrapped in tin foil, you can stick it away in a drawer or something, and you know that when you unwrap it, it'll be sterile, ready to go. So you don't have to do it every time. You can, if it's a cold winter's night and you happen to have spare jam making equipment, of course, that's the important thing, then you can amuse yourself sterilising stuff, wrapping it up in foil and keeping it, and it'll be sterile when you come to open it and use it. So that's just a little aside. So, you know, hold your jar lid up like that, stops things from falling on it. And then we just fill it by pouring from the jug, and I can see it's going off in the jug. It's going off everywhere. Into the jar, up to just a few millimetres from the top. That one's for me because it's got the bubbles on the top of it. I wouldn't be giving that to anybody. So that one's set aside for me, but the next one will be completely clear. Same process again, open the lid, hold it that way up. And this time there won't be a single bubble or blemish. That is absolute perfection in blackcurrant jelly. Absolute perfection. There you are, a couple of millimetres from the top. Screw the lid on. And there you have it. Absolutely beautiful, isn't it? There you go. Blackcurrant jelly. Until next time.